Welcome to Inside Fire Rescue. I'm Chief Keith Bryant of the Oklahoma City Fire Department. This program brings you very important information about fire prevention and other safety issues that are important to our community. Each year in Oklahoma, inclement weather has the potential to cause major power outages over widespread areas. As part of an emergency preparedness plan, many homeowners have chosen to purchase power generators. Whether it's a permanently installed generator or a portable unit, there are many things that a homeowner should consider before using this type of equipment. Here's Battalion Chief Tim Adams of our Public Education Works section to give you some helpful tips.
I'm so very glad to see you once again. This is Chief Tim Adams with the Oklahoma City Fire Department, Battalion Chief over Public Education. This month we're coming to you with emergency power systems. Living in Oklahoma, we have all types of disasters, tornadoes, high winds, ice. Today we've come to Clifford Power Systems to look at a professionally installed system, something we'd like to see more of. Rocky, thank you so much for letting us come to your facility today and share with us about your emergency equipment. Can you tell me what we're looking at today?
What we have here is a 17 kilowatt residential natural gas generator. This will power a home anywhere from about 2,000 to 2,500 square foot without having to cut back on power usage. You can run all of your lights, your heat and air system, your deep freezes, basically everything that you generally run, you can run with this generator.
And so your daughter can run her blow dryer, your son is boombox, and it's not going to affect anything about the way the house performs?
Absolutely. They can run everything in the house that they're accustomed to using.
I understand. Well, what is this big box on top?
This right here is an automatic transfer switch. This is the brains behind the generator. This is installed between the utility service and the main distribution panel or the breaker panel in the home. What this does is it tells the generator when you've lost power. It will start the generator, transfer power to your house. When the utility service comes back on, this also senses that, and it turns the generator off and puts you back on utility.
So you're telling me that when the power cuts off, this automatically cuts the power away from where it comes down in the meter head?
Yes.
So it's not going to backfeed back up the line?
Absolutely. This is 100% safe, not only for the homeowner, but also for the linesman working for the electrical company.
And then when the power comes back on, the power's not going to feed down and blow up your generator?
Correct. This will transfer back and turn the generator off.
Okay, so is this something I could come and buy and install myself?
This is something you could come and buy. However, installation would need to be done by a licensed electrician and then a licensed plumber to run your gas lines as well.
So I can buy it from you, but then I need to pay you to come install it, or some other license?
Absolutely,
I
yes.
see. And on average, what is something like this going to cost the average homeowner?
This particular unit with the generator and the transfer switch will run anywhere from about $5,700 to $5,800 depending on what modifications we do to it. Installation is going to be about $1,000 to $1,200.
That's on top of the
That's on top
cost
of the purchase price, yes.
Now, how often do they have to be serviced? I mean, what do you have to do as far as taking care of it?
Well, it's got an engine in it, just like a car or truck. We recommend that you have the oil changed at least once a year. And then you also, at least once a year, you want to open it up and clean out any cobwebs, mouse nests, dirt dauber nests, anything like that might have got in here and nested up.
How long should this last? I mean, if I was to come and buy one, how long should I expect this thing to last my home?
One of these, with standard testing and only used as standby power in emergency situations, should last you about 30 years.
30 years and never have a power outage?
Never have a power outage, absolutely.
Wow. Anything else you'd like to tell me about it?
Not necessarily. It basically, it operates on its own. Once it's there, you don't have to worry about it. You're not out in the rain trying to turn it on. You're not pulling any cords. You know, when it's cold and you've got ice, you're still in the house when it's warm. You basically get a 15-second blink and then you're back on power.
15 seconds and back up and running. Well, Rocky, I certainly thank you so very much.
Sir.
Really appreciate your time. When we come back to Inside Fire and Rescue, we're going to talk a little bit about the proper use of portable generators in emergency situations.
I love a man who changes his own oil.
You shouldn't sneak up on people like that. That suit's scary.
What's scary is all that oil.
Nah, I'm gonna store it in my garage with my old car batteries.
I'm sure what you meant to say was, you'll take all of this to the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Facility, where it can be disposed of safely, right?
Depends. Are you wearing that suit to dinner?
The things a girl has to do for her environment. Get more info at okc.gov.
Welcome back to Inside Fire and Rescue. We've come to the neighborhood to take a look at some of the things you might face when putting together a temporary power service. Let's face it, in Oklahoma, we're going to deal with power outages. In winter, it's going to be because of ice. Spring, summer, it's going to be because of straight winds and tornadoes. So let's take just a few minutes and look at some of the things you might run into in your own home while using a temporary power system. If you're the owner of one of the old manual power systems, there's a few things you might need to know that nobody's ever informed you of. First and foremost, you must disconnect your system from the rest of the power grid. That's done real simply by kicking the main breaker. Doing this separates your power system in the house from the rest of the power grid so that wherever these wires are down, you're not backfeeding and powering up the line so that somebody might get injured. Secondarily to that, when the power kicks back on, you're not going to blow your generator up from the extra electricity coming through the system. Real easy step, one that's overlooked a great deal of the time. One of the last things I want to share with you about this panel is, unless you are a trained professional, you do not open this. It is illegal, it's unsafe, and almost 20% of the people who die because of temporary power solutions each and every year die because of electrical shorts. If you're not a trained professional, leave it alone. Now let's go take a few minutes and go look at a proper setup for temporary power solutions in the event that you're without power. All right, we've moved out to the backyard, which is the location that most of these things are utilized. Most people like to put these in the backyard. They're harder to steal. They're more out of sight, out of mind. And not only that, the noise from these things doesn't bother as many people that way. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences between this generator and the generator you saw, say, at Clifford Power Systems just the other day. This generator is a 5,000 watt max output. This is less than a quarter of the size of the generator you saw the other day. That's important. This thing is not made to run the whole house. It's only made to run the bare necessities of the house. The blower motor on your heater. It will not run your central heat and air unit. It will run, say, your television, but you need to be careful about that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. I want you to notice that there's one duplex plug here and one 220 plug. This 220 plug is a very unique plug. Don't try to jerry rig and put something that doesn't fit. If you need to, take your unit down to the hardware or electric store and get the proper plug for this. If they don't have one, get with an electrician, have it wired correctly. You'll notice that this is a grounded plug. That means we need to put grounded plugs in it, and we will talk about that a little bit more in just a little bit. These things run just like any other gasoline-powered engine. They need the same kind of maintenance that you would with your own lawnmower. You need to change the oil at least once a year, or every 30 to 60 hours. If these things have been running for a week, it's time to change the oil. The air filter needs to be serviced. The gasoline needs to be changed on a regular basis, especially if it sets for any length of time. That's one of the things that puts these things out of commissions faster than anything else. People will fill that gas tank up and just leave it set. That gasoline will get in the carburetor and will evaporate and will gum up the carburetor. Then when you need it, it's not available to you. This is just another tool in your arsenal of preparedness. It needs to be maintained, it needs to be checked, it needs to be tested, it needs to be utilized on a regular basis. All right, we've turned the generator around now, and actually this is the position in which it should be used. I want you to take notice of the fact of where the exhaust is and how it's pointed out away from the house. That's really important. 80% of the over 1,000 people that have died since 2000 have died because of carbon monoxide poisoning. That's because they use these things in a garage. They put them close to doors. They pointed the exhaust in the doors. Carbon monoxide is deadly. It's a colorless, tasteless, poisonous gas that has overcome well over 5,000 people since 2000. It's important that we make sure and utilize these things correctly. All right, we have our machine placed where we want it. We're under a good cover, close to a pole, so if we need to change it, we can. Our exhaust is pointed out and away from our building. We're not going to have to worry about the carbon monoxide issues. Before we start it up, I want to remind you about the magneto inside this generator. If it's not utilized every month, it can lose its charge. It's necessary that you maintain it just like you do the engine aspect of this. Start it, let it run for 15 minutes, put a load on it. Make sure it's good and ready to be used in the event of emergency. Before we start running cords inside, let's talk really briefly about the kind of cords you're using. We've got 3 separate cords. One 2-leg cord, one 3-leg cord, and then a really heavy 3-leg cord. Keep in mind that we're not always in control of the environment we're in. This is a ungrounded circuit. Never want to use these things when you're trying to run power inside the house. Not only that, the cording on it is really light duty, so if you're pulling a lot of juice, you can overheat this cord real easily. This is not a good option. This looks like a good selection, right? It's grounded, got the 2 prongs, it's in good shape, But if you look at it, the cording on it is really light. It's not heavy enough. This is about a 14 gauge cord. If you're going to be pulling a lot of juice off of this cord, which you probably will, you're going to be running your refrigerator, maybe your freezer on occasion, and occasionally maybe the TV or radio. Probably the blower motor on your heater unit. And you start pulling that kind of juice through this light of cord, it might overheat. But if you look to this third one, this is a good heavy-duty 12 gauge cord. It's got a ground leg and the 2 power legs. It's in good serviceable shape. This would be a good candidate to use, but not just one of them. I've seen a number of people pull one of these things into the house and put it on a power strip and then run 14 different cords off of this. That is not how this is to be used. At the very most, only 3 appliances, 3 light appliances should be pulled off of this at the very most. A 1-to-1 ratio is best, but if you need to power more than one thing, make sure you're not overloading the circuit. These things don't have to be run 24 hours a day. Generally, you can start and let them run for 30 minutes to an hour, shut it down, let it cool off, unplug your devices. A few hours later, let it run again for about an hour. You don't have to run them constantly. It's not made as a whole house replacement like the first items we looked at. It may be necessary for you to use some of your more sensitive electronic equipment while using the generator. For that, I would really recommend that you get a surge protector, and it's a power splitter or an area where you can pull some of your other cords from. Now understand that sometimes generators will put out a spike. Sometimes it's a little low, sometimes it's a little high. It won't hurt things like compressors, but it can kill your TVs, it can kill your computers. So let me encourage you that when you bring in the power from the generator, plug that straight into a surge protected power distribution device like this. You'd be a whole lot safer. All right, we've selected our power cord that we're going to use. We've identified our power distribution device that we're going to take into the house. Let's string a little cord and see just exactly how we need to do this and safely. Now, we got to get the power into the house. How do we do that? A couple of real simple ways. One would be to run right straight through the window. That way you could drop the window down on the line without cutting it. Of course, cutting or abrasing the cord is one of the biggest concerns. If you knock the sheathing off of this, it'd be real easy to find yourself electrocuted real easily. So be very careful while you're doing this, but you can run it in under the window. But by far the simplest route is to take it right inside the door. You can run it in right under the sweep and shut the door almost all the way, like this. All right, we've just about run out of cord, and this would be a great central location for a power distribution system. It's a center part of the house. You can reach the TV, the computer, the refrigerator, even the freezer in the back hall simply by plugging in an extension cord to this power distribution system. You'll notice that this also has a surge protector built in, so you're effectively covering all of your devices in one shot. Once again, I want to remind you that portable generators, temporary power systems, are just that, temporary. They're for short-term use in the event that we are without power. Power is going to be back on shortly. Sometimes shortly means 2 hours, sometimes it means 2 days. In extreme cases, it means 2 weeks. But let me advise you once again, these small generators are simply for the necessities that you have, such as your refrigerator, your freezer, the few lights throughout the house, the TV so you can find out exactly what's going on, maybe even charging your cell phone so you can stay in contact. Running the entire house is not what these small generators are for. Please be safe. If you can be safe in your home, it'll make the entire emergency event for everybody in the city easier.
I hope this information has been helpful in giving you a better understanding of the use of portable generators to provide backup power for your home. I would like to emphasize Chief Adams' point that 80% of the injuries and death associated with the use of portable generators occur because of carbon monoxide poisoning. Keep working battery-operated carbon monoxide detectors in your home, especially when you're using backup generators. And please use the tips that we have given you today to keep you, your family, and your property safe. And that does it for this edition of Inside Fire Rescue. Until next time, please remember, smoke detectors and fire prevention save lives. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Couch. Ride in Oklahoma City and ride safely. And you're watching City Channel 20.